G'day YouTube, Max right here, and I got a really fun interview today. I'm going to try and start doing more interviews in the future, but this one is by popular demand from the subscribers on my channel. I got a couple of emails and several people requested this. So Rob from Digital Asset News, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you run an awesome channel. I highly recommend people check it out and subscribe. But I got a couple things here. You did a video which is really popular talking about your exit strategy. I'd like to just go through that. Perhaps if you could catch people up a little bit. What is your crypto exit strategy, and what are you planning to do with your profits and your whole strategy around that?
It's a good question. So really, it comes down to, what are your goals? What are your goals and what you want to do? Some people are all on the spectrum like we talked about, right? Some people think that Bitcoin is going to 1 million, Ethereum is going to 75,000, Cardano is going to $100 or whatever else it is. And some people are like, you know what? I'm not so sure that everything's going to be done in this bull run cycle in 2021. So for me, I went through 2017 and I hit myself towards the top, looking at Bitcoin around 12,000, somewhere around there. And just like everybody else out there, were telling me, you know what? Bitcoin's going to 100,000 this cycle. Or if you were listening to John McAfee back then, he's like, Bitcoin's going to 1 million. Well, guess what happened? Didn't even hit $20,000. So I had to watch my investments, all of them, go from $12,000 all the way to 19,800 or whatever else it was, and then drop to about, I don't know, $5,000, $4,000 in a little over 3 weeks or so. So I devised a way to just do, I'm not a genius, but it's just an exit strategy. Where do you think the prices are going to go this bull run cycle, and how much do you want to cash out? Because unless I'm missing something, Wells Fargo is not going to take my Bitcoin for my payment for my mortgage. I can't pay off my houses, my cars, and everything else. I'm going to need some kind of cash. So I will never cash out everything for my crypto, but at some point you have to take profits. And I think that's what I'm trying to talk about here.
Gotcha. And so do you have any ideas around that? Is it a date target, a price target? What are you going to do? And then also, kind of more where I was leading is, what are you going to do? What are you going to convert that into? Is it just lifestyle, or are you actually going to go into some investments?
So there's a couple different things. First of all, this is what I do. I don't know this is not financial advice, entertainment purposes only, all that good stuff. So for me, when I think about it, I believe in this bull cycle that Ethereum is going to go to around 10,000. Some people can say higher, some people can say less. And what I did is I just took a look and said, okay, at around $2,000, if I have 40 Ethereum, then I'm going to take, 10% of those. I'm going to take 4, and I'm going to sell them at 2,000. And then at 5,000, I'll sell a percentage. And then at 8,000, I'll sell a percentage. And when it gets around 10,000, I'll sell a percentage. So once I can cash out that type of money, what do I do with money? Well, if you just let it sit there, it just becomes on fire, right? Just like what Michael Saylor talks about in MicroStrategy. So that doesn't mean no good. So what I do is I have other businesses. One is an online education platform. Other one is FBA. The other one is a sports facility. But the big one is investment properties. So if I can take that money that I'm going to cash out and put those into land or investment properties, I think it's a pretty good way to actually have some type of wealth moving on into my grandkids, my kids and my grandkids. They can appreciate that. So that's what I go to. And then another thing is, people will talk about this. Well, Rob, why don't you just take a loan through Celsius or BlockFi or Crypto.com or whatever else? So we did a video on this and we took a look at all the different rates. So here's the thing. If you take a loan with all those, like a Celsius, like a BlockFi, it has to be collateralized. And at the minimum, you have to double up on what you want. So if you're looking to just take a loan out and just play around with that money, that's great. But what happens when this bull runs over? Because I think at some point, it's not going to go up forever. So in 2021, you take a loan out. Hopefully it's at the right time. Let's say you take out $50,000 worth of a loan. Well, you got to collateralize that at least up to 100,000. And if you want to get a pretty good rate, you're looking at 200,000. So what do you do with that $50,000? Well, you better make that money work for yourself. And you better put that into something that will actually appreciate. Because if you just take a loan, it's not going to do you any good. So those are the options that we come up with. Me personally, if I take a loan, I would put into something that would actually appreciate, maybe like an Amazon FBA type of inventory type of thing, where I can turn that money around. If I do something like for a down payment of a house, well, you better pay it off pretty fast, because once it starts to depreciate, let's say you take out Ethereum, 100,000 worth of Ethereum, it's going to happen where you start to get liquidated, because at some point after the bull run, things go down, and guess who wants their money back? The lending platform.
Very, very wise words. Very good consideration. I have a very similar strategy, by the way. I'll be taking some chips off the table, and I'll be going into real estate. And actually, I've devised an absolutely incredible. So, just for background, I've been involved in crypto for 2013, and so my cost basis is very, very low, and the capital gains tax I'm going to have to pay on that is going to be quite offensive. And because I am so this year I'm positioning myself as a real estate professional, and that's going to allow me to do absolutely incredible things with regards to tax regards. I'm expecting to very, very legally not pay any taxes. Just out of curiosity, you mentioned you have some real estate holdings, and so obviously that's a part of your business. I don't suppose by chance either yourself or your partner or anything like that is a real estate professional or has a real estate license?
So when we work with a couple of real estate agents, but as far as like real estate investors, like on retainer or something like that, we don't have anything like that. So when we want to get like an investment property, so right now we live in two places. We live in El Paso, Texas, and also in Houston, Texas. So when we want to get an investment property, we'll just take a look at what is a pretty good area for renting out. And what we try to do is focus on the Airbnb market. Because right now it's atrocious. The Airbnb market is because, coronavirus, not that many people are traveling too much. However, what we've done, we've converted over to long-term rentals, because people, they still have to travel sometimes for work. They still have to travel for families. So they'll be here for 3 months to 6 months, up to a year. So it works out pretty well like that. But as far as like, massive amounts of real estate, we're not looking for that right now. It's just house by house by house. And then of course land, but that's more like honestly, land is more like a store of value type of play for us.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I got a lot to add on that one. If any of that stuff interests you, by the way, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. In other videos, I do reveal those kinds of things. You did have, it's something kind of, I think a lot of people do something quite dangerous and flirt with, they kind of bought into the anonymity of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and perhaps are not doing what they should be with their taxes. And you had an experience with that and very kind of shared that. Do you mind sharing that a little bit as well, just to find out what other people what was your experience? Other people might be able to learn from that. What's your advice around that, this crypto cycle with regards to declaring your profits?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say something pretty unpopular right now, and that's okay, because that's what the channel's about. So when I started the channel, about 3 months into it, I started talking about taxes, and people are like, "You're an idiot. You don't have to pay taxes on cryptocurrencies. It is property. It is my constitutional." I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but here's the thing: the taxman's always going to know. So all those KYC and AML procedures that you've done, where you held up your cards and you had your little name right there, or you put all the information in, and I don't care what exchange you were going to, they all know what's going on. So as far as like paying your taxes, 2 years ago, it was just more like an education type of thing. The IRS would send you a letter. "Hey, Max, you said on this letter that you didn't invest in any virtual currencies, but over here it says you did, so maybe you could amend that." Well, now we just had an article that came out that talks about the IRS is like, we're going away from that, and we're going to go into enforcement type of things. So I expect more so to see more type of public cases, and instead of saying, "Max, you didn't pay for that," I expect to see fines. Not massive fines, but fines and maybe potential legal action. So there is that. So for me personally, I will just tell everybody here, if you've never been audited, you should try it. It's awesome. It's a great experience because you get to haul in all of your receipts. You get to sit down with the IRS agent, and they get to grill you for at least a week on the different things that you said that you did or didn't do or didn't have receipts for. And it is an awesome experience. So I went through this in 2014, matter of fact, and it was for one of my businesses. They said, "Hey, you have an online business. There are some discrepancies. We want you to bring in all of your receipts and all of your tax forms and everything that you have and come in here and sit down with us." I'm like, "Great, this should be a fantastic time." Sucked. So you have to bring in everything that you've ever had from years back. You have to find all the physical receipts, and you have to prove everything that you said that you did. Now, When I first went in there, it was going to be massive. They were talking like, over a six-figure type of fine. And then when I walked out of there, it was between, I think it was between 1,000 and 2,000. So not too bad. But it's one of those things where you don't want to go through that because it puts your whole life on hold. So when we're talking about cryptocurrency digital assets, unless you bought them, I don't know how you would, unless you know a miner and you bought them from a miner in some back alley type of thing as far as Bitcoin goes, okay, sure. Because they haven't registered those hardware wallets like a ledger yet. So I think you're okay, but 99% of us, we're all gonna have to pay for our taxes. And I would just recommend cryptotrader.tax. Max, I don't know if you have one that you like to use, but cryptotrader.tax, I used it from the time that I figured out what the hell I was doing to actually send to my CPA. It took me 30 minutes. I have a direct API right into the exchanges, send it over to my CPA. She said, great, you made a lot of dumb trades. And she was right. And then I got a nice little tax benefit. So that's what I could say to you. Now, again, not a very popular opinion, but it is what it is.
I agree, and it is very, very smart. And I agree with you with regards to the step up of the IRS. It's definitely where they're headed, and so it is very, very sage advice. And so that is exactly my advice as well. So just so you know, I'm 100% behind you. Now, I want to talk about a couple other things. Let's talk about ADA a little bit. This is a coin that I think you have a little bit of a soft spot for, and so I'm actually quite new to it. Actually, the gentleman who makes my thumbnails, his name's Corey, is a great guy, and he's like, oh, Max, please do a video on ADA. I love it. It's blah, 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 blah. I was like, all right, well, give me the skinny, and he told me a little bit about it. I was like, okay, this is interesting, but I would love to hear from you. Yeah, what are you thinking about it?
So here's the thing. I invest in people. I think if you invest in people, things work out. The reason why Apple was so successful was Steve Jobs. The reason why Microsoft was successful was a Bill Gates. Whatever you want to say about Bill Gates, I don't really care. But he's very successful. And with this one, I take a look at Cardano, ADA, and I look at Charles Hoskinson. I say, that's a guy I want to invest in. Because if you have to just take a step back and look at what I call the Cardano mafia is. In the early, late 90s, early 2000s, you had the PayPal mafia. And those are all the people that created PayPal, right? You had your Elon Musks, you had your Peter Thiels, all the guys that actually went on to create YouTube. They've already done these huge companies, right? And they've always been successful. What breeds success is past success. So you have Charles Hoskinson with Cardano. You got a Dr. Gavin Wood with Polkadot. You've got a Vitalik Buterin with Ethereum. And then Joseph Lubin with Consensus. So why wouldn't you invest in people like that? They already know what they did before, made a ton of mistakes, and they go, okay, we're going to learn from that and make something even better. And that's why I like Cardano. That's just one of the reasons why I like Cardano. The people. So Charles will always talk about it's a third generation cryptocurrency, right? So you got your first generation Bitcoin, great. You get your second generation Ethereum, and now you get your third generation, which would be Cardano. And when people talk to me, like somebody's new is like, well, I know Bitcoin's used for currency, hint, it's not. And the other thing is, well, I know Ethereum is used for currency, hint, it's not. Ethereum is really a protocol that you can build on it. Richard Hart said it best when he talked about, he goes, Ethereum is like a typewriter. And if you're a novelist, it depends on what you're going to write. If you're a programmer, it's all good how well you can actually program it. But if you put in crap, you will get out crap, just like a novelist into a typewriter. And that's what's great about Ethereum. So now you take a look at Cardano, right? Cardano does the same type of thing. The biggest knock on it, though, is that it's so damn slow. And me and you, Max, we're entrepreneurs, right? We want to just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks and then move on. But Cardano, IOHK, Emergo, all those guys that work with Cardano, they like to be very meticulous, almost like Boeing engineers. They're kind of like, okay, let's just make sure this works right and this works right, and they're very slow. But I mean, if you're trying to change a large part of the world, I can see why. So they've got the Goguen era coming out, which will really usher into smart contracts. They had Shelley with their mainnet launch not too long ago. And they're working on a lot of different things that I think could be, really beneficial to our market. And hopefully they make a lot of good partnerships. So Cardano is just one of those things that if you look at, just to talk about price action, make it simple for everybody. The all-time high for Cardano back in 2017 was like $1.13, $1.18, somewhere around there. Right now we're looking at 30 cents. So why couldn't that 3-4x right now? And that was on vaporware. They didn't have a mainnet. So now look what we have right now. It's within the top 10. It's been jockeying between like the 7th and 6th spot, sometimes the 8th. I think it can be very big. And again, just look at the people behind it, the team behind it, and the investors. I think Cardano could be a big thing. On top of the, and the last thing I'll say, I'm sorry going so long, but if you have ever staked on Ethereum, it sucks. So it's very hard, very meticulous to do. Some people are like, I don't know what you're talking about, it's super simple. Well, I'm not a techie, right? And most of the peoples aren't techies out there. They want to make something super simple. And then also, there's this thing called slashing. So if you're not up all the time, there's these, it slashes your Ethereum and you can lose the whole Ethereum. And of course, it's locked in for years because you're looking at Ethereum 1.0 to Ethereum 2.0. That could take another year to 2 years. Cardano, they've already got proof of stake up and running. I'm running a staking pool myself. You can stake your Cardano, you can move it whenever you want to, and you can add or subtract, and there's no slashing. So if it's me and I'm looking for the most easiest thing to use, I'll go with that one.
Gotcha. From my limited little experience and checking it out, one of the, I think one of the cooler pitches or bullet points or reasons to check it out, I think, is in the world of coders, like the number of people that with the existing skill set to code on other blockchains, on Ethereum. The languages they use are obscure languages that hardly anybody knows, and you've got to go and learn those languages in order to code on Ethereum. But what Cardano is trying to do, and help me out, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what I gathered from my little bit of research, is that they're trying to bring in all the other coders. They're bringing the existing coding world, which is orders of magnitude bigger than the blockchain coding world. So the intellectual capital that can come in and start coding on Cardano is orders of magnitude bigger than who can come in and code on other chains without going to have and relearning different languages and new bits and pieces. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so I mean, they're trying to make things a little bit easier for everybody to come on top of the fact that they even have an ERC20 converter. So right now, all these different projects that are, built on Ethereum, they're kind of a little bit nervous going, well, when's this 2.0 thing coming out and how stable is it? And how much can we scale? Because that's the big thing. Everybody out there who's watching this right now, go over to Uniswap right now and try to do a transaction. Tell me how the fees are. So if you can put something on like a Cardano to where you can just do a quick converter over to the Cardano network, why wouldn't you do it? So, and let me preface it by this. All these things I'm talking about, I could be totally off. Who knows what can happen with cryptocurrencies and digital assets, but these are the things that I see that could potentially pay off pretty big.
I like it. I like it. All right, I appreciate that. I think we might wind it up there. So any other comments or questions for me or anything that you want to finish off with?
Let me ask you this. So Max, when you were back, because you came in 2013, right?
That's right.
So tell me what it was like back then, because I just had Diddy on the show. Diddy was the guy who, he sold his house and his cars and everything, him and his family, for Bitcoin in 2017. And then he, just travels the world now. Right now he's in Portugal. And
so obviously that was at the beginning of 2017 and not at the end.
Yeah, we had a big discussion about that. But it was always interesting for me to hear about it, because back then he's like, listen, man, no one really knew about this. We just thought it was kind of funny money, and we didn't really know. And he goes, he sold in, when was it? 2014 during that, because we had a halving in 2012. 2013 was the all-time high. 2014 was the big crash. He goes, I sold. He goes, and I was buying. He said he was picking up Bitcoin for nothing, and now I wish he could have it back. So what was it like back then when you got in?
So let me think. So the original crew of Bitcoin, there were three types of people way back in the day. There was tech geeks who were just straight up fascinated by technology. Yeah. And that kind of, this your Andreas Antonopoulos, and at the time he was quite an important player in the space. He ran the Bitcoin core code. Gavin, his last name's lost on me.
Gavin Wood.
What's that? Yeah.
Gavin Wood. Is that what you're talking about?
Is it? No, I don't think so. But anyway.
Oh, sorry. If you're talking about Ethereum, yeah, but it's somebody else.
Okay,
go on. Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin. No idea.
Yeah, this is pre-Ethereum. Ethereum
okay.
At the time, Vitalik, he was he was a journalist. Well, I mean, he was obviously a coder and a savant back then as well. But at the time, he was getting paid like $20 an article to write an article about Bitcoin. That's where he started. And there's some interviews with he and I on my channel. And then, so there's the tech geeks. And then there was the illicit use. There was the Silk Road and the drug crew. And I didn't meet any of those, but I did meet, I met plenty of the tech geeks. And then the third crew were the libertarians. And this were people who were fascinated by the Federal Reserve. They were monetary scientists, for lack of a better word. They very much understood what was happening at the Federal Reserve. And they're like, this is going to be huge. And they went all in. And that was, so Bitcoin Jesus. We have Eric Voorhees, Trace Mayer. And it was actually Trace who got me. I was at a libertarian conference, and I'm in that third category. And so I met him. I think Trace and myself were both speakers at a libertarian conference in 2012, the end of 2012. And he actually sold me my first Bitcoin in 2012. And so they were the three kinds of players in the space, and they're all out for different things, and they're all suspect of each other and all the other things of whether or not it was good or bad. But it really was a really fun and very, very fascinating place. Because of all those things going on. And there's been really interesting, and back then very much the storyline was Bitcoin is money. And as you said, it's like, no, Bitcoin has turned into digital gold, and that's the narrative that's working right now. And I think we may come back and circle back to Bitcoin is money at a later date perhaps. But right now, Bitcoin is just gold 2.0. It's a place to hedge, and it's a pristine reserve asset. And so it's interesting to see how that has played out. And so I've got a theory, which I just call it, I should come up with a better branding name for it, but it's my funnel theory. But we have all these trillions of dollars, quadrillions of dollars of assets out there in this world. It's this big, giant, wide funnel. And my theory was the thing was going to collapse down eventually into gold, and then eventually into Bitcoin, and then eventually into privacy coins. And I think as it stands now, it looks as though, gold, I think gold's going to do very, very well. The gold might even get passed over significantly, and things are going into Bitcoin and gold. But then at the moment, and I think it is inevitable, but the moment any kind of heavy-handedness comes out by governments around the world against Bitcoin, and even if it's, maybe it's not going to be every country, it might be some countries, it could be a unified front at the International Monetary Fund. That kind of thing could happen. Yeah. But it's probably just going to be a country here or a country there or whatever. The moment that happens, you're going to see privacy coins explode. And what I'm looking for, and I know, and you perhaps might know the answer to this, but here's where I think it will all end, and it might take 5 to 10 years to play out. But here's where it all ends, is where it's a programmable language where you can have DeFi on there as well, and is also like anonymous / private, like the Moneros and the Zcashes by default. If it's not by default, I don't think it's effective enough, because then you end up with non-fungible tokens. And where's this coin come from? It was from an anonymous source, so I can't take it. Now you end up with a non-fungible token. So it has to be anonymous by default, and it has to be a programming language, etc., where you can actually do different things with it. And so that's where I think it's all going to end up. But in the meantime, it's not going to get that. Those aren't the things that are going to shoot off straight away. In the meantime, I think Bitcoin and these top 3-4 chains, the chain links, the Ethereums, the ADAs, the dots, I think they're going to do very, very, very well this cycle. And then maybe in the next cycle, you might see that shift to where I'm talking about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because it totally makes sense. Because look at who's here now. If we think, like I said this on my channel, I think I still believe it to be true. We're early, really early. You can go up to anybody right now and say, "Hey, have you heard about Bitcoin?" A lot of people say yes, right? But ask 10 more people about Cardano. I don't know what that is. Ask, this is the same thing about Voyager. One of my top picks of 2020. They have no idea. So we just have to get them to understand that, first of all, cryptocurrency digital assets are a better option for them right now than what is going on with money, with fiat. And there's been no better advertisement than the Fed printing money up the wazoo. So that has probably been the best thing. And we're going to get $3 trillion more going into this year. And I think people, once they realize that like, oh, well, I can hold, like PayPal users. This is a prime example I think is going to happen. PayPal users are going to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever else it is, because they want to use it as either an investment or maybe they want to use it as a payment for one of the PayPal merchants. Great. They buy one Ethereum. They don't use it for a couple of weeks. Then they go to buy something, they're like, whoa, hey, wait, this just went up 25%, 20%, 50%. I can't do that in the traditional market. I don't know what this stuff really is. Maybe I should take a deeper dive into it. I think that's what people are going to look into, like, wow, this is a real appreciating asset as far as currency. So sure.
I will give I'll share a little bit of advice from the years we've spent in the space. In my opinion, there are three standout human beings, like savants in this space: Satoshi, Vitalik, and Dan Larimer. And Dan Larimer is an interesting story. He's a really, really cool guy. I met him a number of times. And he's had three projects. Actually, I think it's three big projects that come to mind. There was another one beforehand, so let's say four, but let's talk about three. The first was BitShares.
BitShares, yeah.
BitShares. And what I'm getting at, let me give you where I'm going with the story, and then I'll tell the story, and I think it'll fit in nicer for you. But one, you said follow the people, and I wholeheartedly agree with it, by the way. So follow the people, and Dan is one of those people that I follow. And he had BitShares, and BitShares turned out, like, financially it was a success, and it's still doing all right. Like, so financially it was a success, but it didn't absolutely crush. And then the next one was their social media.
Yeah.
What was that called?
I forgot. Well, I think they were going to go to voice. Steam it. And then didn't that split? There was a fork or something. Yeah.
And that was also a big success. And then there was EOS. Now all three of them have phased in and out. And the technology I had a good look at two of them, both BitShares and EOS. And the technology is superior and amazing on both. And Dan's like a top shelf guy and all the rest of it. And still, it's not knock it out of the park type stuff. And there's other things. There's the je ne sais quoi that just makes the magic happen. And it's fascinating to try and identify that and see what those things are. It just gets really, really interesting, really, really fast. And so, a question for you: what are the other things that make, what is the je ne sais quoi that makes something amazing?
I'll say it like this. I talked about this, I think it was last week. So I said, the question was this: I don't know where you're at. Max, I don't know where you're at. I have no idea. But the question I asked everybody was, what's the best burger, the best hamburger in your town? Which one is it? Is it like Bronco's Burgers or Ted's Fantastic Burger or whatever else? Which one has the best, tastiest hamburger in your town? And you get responses, whatever else. And I could say, I don't know which one is the best, but I can tell you which one is the most popular, the one that makes the most revenue, and that's McDonald's. And the reason why McDonald's is there is because, first of all, they're all over the place. You cannot escape them. They're on every corner. They're in advertisements. They're in social media. They're on a Super Bowl commercial. So you can't escape them. And I think one of those things that makes things happen is the community that's, first of all, is the community, but the second of all is just getting into the public consciousness of what this actually is. Now, I'm going to say something pretty unpopular again. Litecoin, I don't understand why it's in the top 10. I don't really get the whole thing with why PayPal picked it, other than it's a very safe pick. And even Charlie Lee beforehand had said, hey, we don't have many developers working on this type of project. Yet, here we are. So sometimes I will say it's luck, and sometimes I will say it's marketing, and sometimes I will say it's the community. So why didn't EOS work? I don't know. But it's one of those things that I invested into because I understood. I'm like, this is a great idea, right? Instead of just doing direct deposits to people, we just do these airdrops and everybody make a bunch of, it'd be a great thing. And it just didn't work out. So the magic to me is one of those things: public consciousness, marketing, getting into the people's heads.
I agree with you about Litecoin. I 100% agree with you. I just don't get it. Don't get it at all. I don't understand why people hold it, and like, let alone Dogecoins and everything else. Like,
hey, wait, Max, wait. Now, don't talk about Doge. No, I'm just kidding. Now, Doge. Hey, I will say this, and I posed this question. I said, you got your Bitcoin maxis, you got your XRP army, your Chainlink Marines. I go, but does anybody really hate Doge? I mean, if you ever said, you know, Doge, everybody's like, yeah, Doge, whatever. Nobody hates Doge. It's amazing. Even Elon Musk tweets about Doge. So whatever.
I like it. All right, Dan, let's wrap it up there. I really appreciate your time. It's a great chat. Hopefully we can do it again. Let people know where they can find you, please.
Digital Asset News over there on the YouTube channel. Also, we've got a 100% free website. It's called Dan Teaches Crypto. And we made it free for a reason. That's because we are global and a lot of people couldn't probably afford a monthly membership. So it's just free. So everything you want to know about just the basic type of things. So if you are like not understanding about, you know, cryptocurrency, blockchain, safety, those type of, just go to danteachescrypto.com. It's 100% free.
Okay. And guys, this is a new style of video for me. I haven't done interviews for years on this YouTube channel. Please let me know if you like this kind of stuff. If you like it, I'll do more of it. It's as simple as that. And so, yeah, let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know, what was your favorite thing or what was your best takeaway from this conversation? Because I think this is really fun stuff, just shooting the shit with people who know what the hell they're talking about. It's fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. And let me know what you guys learned from it. And please like and subscribe. Do all those wonderful things that help me grow the channel. I really appreciate that too. So everybody take care. Dan, thank you very much. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.